I traveled with them. And it's wonderful. I get to fill my bucket list or cancel it, whatever. Anyhow, is this up too high?
No, it's fine.
Okay. We arrived over in, let's see, we went to France first, and we visited with these relatives of Scott's, and that was a story in its own. He found them one year when they were over there doing concerts, and had no idea that they were alive. They didn't know he was alive. So we visited with them, and he took us to our house to stay that night. And while we were there, we visited the St. Michael Cathedral, which Scott's great-great-grandfather, I think, did some of the stained glass windows in it and stuff. It was really neat. And when we went back to Bruno's house, he's German, and his wife is French, and so he taught us some German words. Baby, anybody know what it is? Baby. And good is bien. Goodbye is au revoir. Happy is hurus. And hello is bonjour. So we're having some, I have to introduce this way because it's funny, and it was fun part of my trip before we went to the Holocaust thing. While having meals at Bruno's, we experienced some more barriers in the language. Bruno said, speaking about his wife, he said, her brother have many troubles. And my granddaughter looked at him, she says, does he have troubles with drugs? And Bruno started stuttering, he said, I don't know, because he doesn't speak, he speaks pretty good English, but he has trouble with some of the words. And so he said he has troubles, what he meant to say was with travels, not troubles with drugs or anything. So he's talking about his travels. And so I thought that was funny. So on Tuesday, after we'd gotten there, we went to Strasbourg, and we did some shopping, and we went to this another cathedral. We went to several cathedrals while we were over there. It was beautiful. And then we drove 4 hours to Germany to our accommodations. This was after we'd been over there for 5 days or so. And we went to a farm, pulled in, and I mean, it was a huge farm. They have horses and everything. And I got out of the car, and the man that has the farm there had grilled our dinner, had it all set up on tables outside. We're going to eat outdoors. As soon as we stepped out of the car, we all went, phew, what's that smell? It smelled almost like a pig farm. I don't know what kind of, maybe cows, maybe he had pigs. But anyhow, we ate our dinner out there, and I wasn't sure about whether I was going to keep it down or not, but later on, when you were getting dessert, we were immune to it. We didn't even smell it anymore, so we had a good night there. And so I had a room to myself. Everybody had their own rooms, and mine had a name on the door. Everybody had a name on their door, and mine was Josephine. And so while we were at this farm, they had a huge barn, and they were going to do a concert for all the young kids in the area. And so it was upstairs in the barn, and I have a video here that I shot of them doing the concert for the kids. Now, I'm going to get to the concentration camp, but I got to have some fun stuff first. And I hope you can hear this.
Speaker is on.
No, she's got,
Come on.
she's got mute.
Hold on. I don't see any volume. Does the TV have to have the volume up?
No,
Huh?
if it should be coming through your computer.
I'm not even seeing on here where you can get this to go up. Well, I guess that's not gonna work too good, but at the end, it's really cute. These kids really loved this, and Scott even had a lady's son come up and sing with them that night. He interacts with the people that are there, and they have a good time. And this boy was playing his guitar here. It's a blow-up guitar.
Air guitar, literally.
Yeah, so watch at the end, it's really cute. I'm sorry that the sound's not playing because I do need the sound for later on.
Very young, aren't you?
So we left there and arrived at our next stop, which was Oranienburg, and that's a town in Brandenburg, Germany. And this is where we visited the concentration camp. Let me get this here. And then, now this has sound too, and I guess I won't have sound, but I'll tell you, my son-in-law is the leader of this band, and that's the band there. And he was telling about, I'm going to read what he said. He said, "For you are all sons of God through faith in Christ Jesus. For as many of you as were baptized into Christ have put on Christ. There's neither Jew nor Greek. There is neither slave nor free. There's neither male or female. For you are all one in Christ Jesus. And if you are Christ, then you are Abraham's seed and heirs according to the promise." And he felt that, these people were terribly treated over there. But yet this country, Germany, has come to be a democratic country. And they don't hold grudges against each other. Maybe some of them do, I don't know. Because we have that in our country with from when we had slavery and that. But we've come out of that just like they came out of the Holocaust. And we should be able to, get along with each other too. I just had to add that. And where you go into the camp, it's a part of the camp. Some of the buildings aren't there anymore, and they have a museum. And there's a big gate, and it says, "Arbeit macht free," and that means work sets you free. And these people, when they were taken in there, they worked. They made shoes, and I don't know what all, but anyhow, these shoes, they had to wear them outside and walk around this huge circle all day long, many, many hours, and their feet would bleed, and the shoes didn't always fit them. They wanted to see how long they were going to last for the soldiers to wear them. But that was just one of the things that I could remember that I had read while I was in there. And let's see, the next one. This is inside one of the buildings. I don't think I'll need this for a minute here. And you had to read a lot of stuff as you went through, so I don't have the narration as far as what the room actually was. But you'll get the idea. Now this, I don't know what that room was used for, but it looks like it has a bench in there. And now this is obvious, I think they must have eaten in this room. And I don't know what this room was for, maybe a bed? I don't know.
Yeah.
And what do you think that one was for?
Wash your hands after.
Urinal.
A urinal?
Wash their hands.
I'd say it's a latrine.
I thought maybe a bath.
They wouldn't be.
I
don't know.
That'd be latrines.
But now, this is a uniform they all wore, and it didn't matter if they were young or old. And I watched a movie one time called The Boy in the Striped Pajamas. Has anybody seen that?
Yeah.
It's not all true in that movie, but it would be a good movie to watch if you want to help you get the idea of what these striped pajamas were. All right. And then this is a sleeping quarter. And they had this monument out there, and I have a closer one, I think. Well, let's see. I do have later on. And it has something written down at the bottom, but it was all in German, and I can't translate it, so I don't know what the monument said either. But see these bricks? If you noticed in the first picture where my son-in-law and all of them were standing outside the gate, those stones are in the ground. These stones were like about 4 by 6 by 12. And so they're driven into the ground a foot. So they never move. I mean, they were really strong, But the workers did this, the people that they took in there. And there's the bottom of the monument, and I could not tell you what that says at all.
It's listing the
Has
nationalities.
anybody been there before?
Well, I could see it from there. It was listing the nationalities of all the different people that were imprisoned there or died there. Because I can see Italian, Norwegian, Romanian.
Yes, uh-huh.
Or maybe there's all the countries that worked
England,
together to.
Spain.
Oh, maybe it's all
Yeah.
the people that worked together fighting in World War II to try to.
That's a memorial to them,
Uh-huh.
to the soldiers, yeah.
Thank you.
I see Bulgaria and Finland and everything.
And then the thing that got me so choked up when I was going through there, they were telling about how they would, if the person got sick and wasn't able to work, if they couldn't do anything, then they put them in that crematory thing, and they cremated them. And they would throw the dead in there too. And that, I mean, it was such a horrible thing that they did. Now, I have a video of, this is the crematory place. And my photos aren't so good either. I wasn't planning on doing anything with them, so I just wanted to see them for myself, so. But this is a video of the crematory. Okay. And, let's see if I don't want to leave anything out, so I'm gonna use my paper. Thomas Burgenthal was the name of the man that I want to tell you about. And his parents were taken to Auschwitz when he was about 8 years old. His father was killed while he was there, but they didn't know. He didn't know where his father or his mother was. They got separated. And so his father was actually killed, but his mother had survived. And he didn't even know that until he got out of there when he was almost 11 years old. She said she knew he was alive because he is a lucky child. And years prior to being taken there, his mother, whom he called Muddy, M-U-T-T-I, went to a fortune teller, and the fortune teller told her that her son was a lucky child. So she went home and she told her husband about it, and he said, well, the only thing that fortune teller knows is that we don't know is how to make money in these bad times. And so I think that was the truth too. So let's see, at the time of his release, he had been at Auschwitz, Sachsenhausen, and a Polish orphanage. Now, I didn't go to Auschwitz, I went to Sachsenhausen. And then I learned later that he had been at that Polish orphanage at the end. He narrowly escaped death because there was something wrong with his toe, and he had to have it amputated. And he got better. If he hadn't gotten better, he would have been thrown into the crematory too. So he survived, and yes, he was a lucky child. In 1945, the Polish soldiers found him and took him with them, and he could speak both German and Polish. And they made him a little uniform to fit him, and so now he was a little soldier. And they realized he was Jewish, so they took him to this orphanage. And between 1945 and 52, I don't know if you all know this, but more than 80,000 Holocaust survivors immigrated to the United States. That's a lot of them, and Thomas was one of them, Thomas Burgenthal. Remember that name. I'm going to show you some pictures of him here in a minute.
You lost your signal.
They'll come back.
Huh?
They'll come back.
Where's the signal? The turn. I don't have any
Just
control over it.
plug it back in.
Plug it,
Plug it back in.
unplug it, and plug it back in?
Yeah, that one there. Perfect.
If anybody's gonna have technical difficulties, it's me. Put it back in. Can you go out of the HDMI, go to sources and go back into HDMI?
I'm looking.
Where's source on here?
Beautiful, isn't it?
Well,
There.
Okay, thank you.
32,000.
On April 20th to 21st, the camp's SS staff ordered 33,000 inmates on a forced march northeast. And little did they know that the SS intended to embark on them on ships and then sink those ships. So the final photos are letters and regarding him and his mother. And I want to show you those, and I will be showing you some pictures of him while he was being interviewed on YouTube. Let's see, I told you about that one. Come on. Read that one. And on April 22nd, 1945, the camp's remaining 3,000 inmates, including 1,400 women, were liberated by the 47th Unit of the Red Army and Polish 2nd Infantry Division. And a lot of these people, most of them were starving, ill, and too weak to even welcome their liberators. Like in several other camps, and despite the medical care they received from the Allied armies, many inmates died in the days following the liberation. And these are some shots that I was able to take off of YouTube of his mother and his father and him when he was a small child there. Can you see he was, 8 when he went into that camp. And this was a friend of theirs, that the little boy next to the mother, he was born in 1929, and he was murdered in 1945. So he was one of the that didn't survive. And this is his mom and him, and this probably is his uncle, I think, from what I got. His uncle took him under his wings after he got out of there and was helping him and was meant a lot to him, he said. So the gentleman on the right is Thomas Burgenthal, and he became, I do have to read what he did, because, does anybody know, have you heard of Thomas Burgenthal? Well, he was a judge, and he has dedicated his life to international law and the protection of human rights. Now, this is that little boy that came out of there. And he has combined a career as a professor of international law with judicial positions and investigatory activities relating to international human rights and the rule of the law. He served as the American judge on the International Court of Justice in The Hague from 2000 to 2010. On his return to the United States, he was reappointed Erlanger Professor of Comparative Law and Jurisprudence by the George Washington University Law School in Washington, D.C., a position he held from 1989 until his election to the ICJ. Think about this. This little boy spent probably 3 years in this concentration camp and came out to come to the United States and be a judge and work in all these things for people's rights. His academic career began at the State University of New York at Buffalo Law School in 1962, and his credentials go on and on. And when I was researching this and getting the interviews and the letters and the telegrams and stuff off of YouTube, I thought, oh, it'd be so great to maybe contact him and just see what he's doing, and maybe he would even come, you don't know, or maybe his children, because he did have children, which I'll tell you about in a minute. But he was born May 11th, 1934, and he died May 29th, 2023. so I was just a little bit late on that. And he was Erlanger Professor Emeritus of Comparative Law and Jurisprudence. Now, I can read that, I know what the words are saying, but I don't know what all that is. That's pretty good, I guess. And he said that his survival of the Holocaust at 10 years of age allowed him to understand what it's like to be a victim of human rights violations.
You got kicked out again.
Okay, I'll have to get it back on there somehow because I want to see those letters. He survived the death march from Auschwitz to Sachsenhausen, where he was eventually liberated in 1945. And most of my information was taken from the book called A Lucky Child, which he did. That was his book. It's a memoir of surviving Auschwitz as a young boy. And some of the information was found on YouTube. Almost 2 years after his liberation, Burgenthal was miraculously reunited with his mother, and in 1951, he arrived in the United States to start his new life. The documents on deposit in Bad Arolsen must forever remind the world of the horrendous crimes the Nazi regime perpetuated, not in order to encourage hatred against today's Germany, which deserves admiration for its transformation from a killer nation into a truly democratic country, but above all, to ensure that this terrible past, above all, as a perpetual reminder of the obligation that we and all future generations have to ensure that this terrible past is never repeated in any part of the world. And that was written by Thomas Burgenthal. And I took a lot of this from page 260 in that book that I read called A Lucky Child. And I bought it over there in the museum, but I'm sure it's over here too. And I don't know if I'm, okay, maybe I can see those letters and things.
Want to go before him as a judge.
He's pissed off.
So just a few pictures of the judge, and he reminds me of my grandfather. I wonder if my grandfather was German. I don't know, or Polish. This tells about when he passed away. He said his survival of the Holocaust allowed him to understand what it's like to be a victim of human rights. And I think I read all that to you because I didn't think I was going to get to show it. That's his obituary. And then this talks about A Lucky Child, which is a memoir written by Thomas Burgenthal. And if you haven't read it and you like to read, it's a lot better than what I'm telling you tonight because it just goes into a lot of detail, which I couldn't go into detail because I didn't write anything down over there. Okay, now this is a letter from the American Joint Distribution Committee, and it was October of '46. And with further reference to your letter as above, we have today received the following report from Warsaw office in reply to the cable sent at your request. We beg to notify you that the manager of the orphanage in Otwick wrote us that Tommy Burgenthal was informed by cable of the location of his mother just before receipt of the JDC letter. Tommy Burgenthal lives in the children's home since July 11th, 1945. He was in a camp in Sachsenhausen after the liberation. He was taken by the 1st Division of the Polish Army as a regiment's child and was brought by a soldier to the orphanage. He went through many hardships. Tommy is a nice, pleasant, good, and brave boy and is very liked by his teachers and colleagues. Simultaneously, his uncle from the USA takes an interest in Tommy. To his mother and uncle, Tommy will write himself. Faithfully yours, Margaret Pels. And so this was the beginning of getting him to his mother. Let me see here. the mother of the A/N child was just in our office, requesting us to forward to you this enclosure, as she fears the Polish authorities would not allow the transfer of the child unless it is German. We assured the mother that everything possible will be done on our side to reunite the child with the legal mother. She showed us the first letter she received from the child, and you will understand how anxious she is to have the child at the earliest possible moment. We would very much appreciate if you would give this case priority so that the poor mother can have her only surviving beloved one at the earliest possible moment. Thank you in advance for your kind cooperation. And so we don't think about how children and their parents were separated and how they must have felt, and when they were trying to get them back, knowing that they're alive. And this one is, okay, Tommy Burgenthal, age 12 years, care of Jewish orphanage, Otwock, Poland, subject transfer of above named child to join his mother in British zone, Germany. Joint Warsaw agrees to bring child to Czech border. Please contact Joint Warsaw about date of child's arrival at border. Joint Belsen willing to pick up child in Prague. Please cable us immediately if you agreeable to bring child to Prague and to keep it until Representative AJDC Belsen arrives. And so it wasn't easy getting back to his mother. And I love this little, I guess this was sort of like it just put the icing on the cake. Tommy Burgenthal was picked up at the Polish-Czech border by AJDC Prague and later sent with a transport of Jewish people to Munich. From Munich, the child was taken by train to Gothenburg, British zone of Germany, and on the 28th of December 1946, mother and child were happily reunited. And I have a copy of the information that I gave you about the judge and how many different places that he served in. I have a handout that you can take with you if you would like to, and read that over, and then it tells you about the book too. So that's all I have to offer. I hope it wasn't too boring, but just while I was there, it was so emotional. I thought, we need to talk about these things. And there's even people that say it didn't happen.
Yeah.
You know, it happened. And these little children even were treated just like the adults were, and their lives were taken. And this was one lucky boy here. He got out of it and got back with his mother. So that's all I have.